Money is better than poverty, if only for financial reasons. Woody Allen. In a famous Beatles song, the boys declare that money can't buy me love. Perhaps they were a bit naive. For individuals, money is synonymous with wealth. However, for economists, it serves as a catalyst for a more efficient economy. Why was money created? What are the consequences of having too much or too little? Let's explore these questions. To understand how money was created, let's imagine that we are bakers in a world where bartering is the norm. We need shoes, so we bake bread and take it to the cobbler, hoping to trade it for shoes. But the cobbler doesn't want bread. Instead, he asks for a pot. We then go to the tinkerer. The tinkerer wants milk in exchange for the pot, so we go to the farmer and trade our bread for milk. Finally, we take the milk to the tinkerer, who gives us the pot, and then we take the pot to the cobbler, who finally gives us the shoes we need. As you can see, this system was complicated back then. And then came a revolutionary idea: money. The power of money lies in its ability to serve as a universal medium for paying off debt. As long as everyone accepts it, buying and selling becomes effortless. Trust is the key factor here. Money has trust ingrained in its very essence. With the creation of money, the economy was able to shift into overdrive. Money serves three important purposes in the economy. First, as we mentioned before, it acts as a medium of exchange. In return for my work, I receive colored paper that I can use to buy what I need from the store. The storekeeper then uses this paper to pay their cashier, who uses it at another shop, and so on. Money acts as a brilliant lubricant. Secondly, money serves as a unit of account. With money, we can express the value of any item in the same units. There are no complications with converting between pounds, kilograms, or liters. This makes business transactions more transparent and also helps us manage our finances at home. Finally, money acts as a store of value. It would be difficult for a baker to store their wealth in loaves of bread, since they would go bad after just a few weeks. Instead, they may choose to keep their colored paper under their mattress, or, in better cases, deposit it in a bank. Essentially, anything that performs these three functions effectively can be considered money. I ask you a question. Why is the camel not a good currency? Well, it's simple. A camel does not have the ideal qualities to turn into money. It does not fit in a pocket. It is difficult to express the value of small things like a banana through a camel, and it is risky to keep our wealth in it. What if it dies? Not surprisingly, small metal objects were much more often used as money. However, the complications do not stop there. Upon further consideration, we must realize that there can never be too much or too little of these things. On one hand, every household needs a sufficient amount of money, but it cannot be easily accessible to everyone. If burnt clay balls would be useless, as anyone could make them at home. They would have no value in society, and no one would want them. Let's win the lottery. It's a good feeling, isn't it? But there's a trick. What would happen if everyone won the same big jackpot? Would everyone be happy if 3 or 4 zeros were added to the value of our banknotes? Of course not, because those same zeros would appear on the price tags very quickly. Merchants would very quickly raise the price of everything, and the world would be hit by massive inflation. We would have millions, but money would lose its value completely. As society evolved, it became clear that money needed to be regulated. But who should have control over it? Throughout time, it has been customary for rulers to have the authority to distribute currency. The faces of the most influential leaders were proudly featured on beautifully crafted coins. This was not an act of self-glorification, but rather a way to establish trust with the public. People could sleep soundly knowing that their coins contained the accurate amount of precious metals, such as gold or silver. But the bags were heavy, not to mention the risk of theft. As a solution, banks began to hold on to the precious metals and issue certificates to owners as proof of ownership. Eventually, colored paper replaced physical coins, and each bank had the ability to produce their own form of currency. Despite its efficiency, there are two major issues with this system. To begin with, the use of various types of paper currency by individual banks is inefficient and leads to complications. In addition, if a bank were to fail, the value of money would decrease. As a result, over time, the system has been improved to the point where the state takes control of managing money systems. This minimizes inefficiencies and potential risks. However, there is still the possibility for rulers or governments to manipulate these systems for their own gain. Sadly, no monetary system can stop a madman at the head of government. So, the first major milestone in the evolution of currency was when money became centralized in the hands of the government. Another significant development was when paper money stopped being backed by precious metals, and you couldn't exchange it for gold at the bank. But that doesn't mean it has no value. Instead, its value is determined by the institution with authority from the government to print these papers. In today's economy, this is primarily done by central banks. However, most electronic money is created by commercial banks under the supervision of the central bank. But I won't go into detail about that here. As we have previously discussed, having too much money in circulation can be problematic, but having too little is also not ideal. The question then becomes, what is the optimal amount of money in circulation? To answer this, central banks must constantly monitor two potential dangers: high inflation and deflation. Inflation occurs when prices rise over time, while deflation refers to a decrease in overall prices. Most people understand why inflation is harmful. It means that money is losing value. For example, yesterday you could buy a loaf of bread for $5, but today you can only buy a bun for the same price. However, why is deflation considered a problem? After all, wouldn't it mean that we can buy more with our money? Of course, it's no problem if Walmart has a sale on bananas. Deflation refers to a long-term decline in prices for all goods and services, not just one item. Deflation has three serious issues. The first problem is that companies struggle to stay afloat during deflation. While they are forced to sell goods and services for less money, they cannot reduce their costs at the same rate. This causes issues with employee satisfaction, as they see their paychecks decreasing. Additionally, if companies do manage to cut wages, it can also lead to decreased demand for their products due to the lower income levels of consumers. This can create a downward spiral. The second problem concerns debt. Try paying off a $100,000 mortgage with declining wages. Finally, there is the problem of expectations. During deflation, people are hesitant to spend money because they anticipate prices falling even further in the future. Balancing between high inflation and the risky brink of deflation, central banks have come to realize that the best approach is to maintain a steady low inflation rate for the economy, typically near 2%. This number is low enough to go unnoticed by most people and far enough from dangerous deflation. However, in order for central banks to achieve an annual inflation rate of 2%, prices of goods and services must continue to increase. With rising prices comes a need for wages to also rise at a higher pace. Essentially, inflation acts as a tax on our currency, but can also help stimulate the economy. A fitting example of the value of money is the film industry. What is the most successful film ever made? Gone with the Wind, from 1939, is number one. If you calculate the box office at today's prices, it's $8.9 billion. Avatar is in second place, and Titanic is third. The Lord of the Rings grossed over $1 billion, but the makers of the film were able to take less from the box office than the producers of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, who made just $185 million in 1937. In other words, a dollar was worth a lot more in 1937 than it was in 2003. Therefore, beware of claims that everything used to be cheaper in the past. Throughout history, the form of currency has always been shaped by technological advancements. In modern times, machines are able to produce high-quality coins and banknotes with intricate designs that are difficult to replicate. However, we now live in the digital age where computers reign supreme. This raises the question, will money ultimately become a series of zeros and ones that we can't physically hold? It seems likely. Virtual currency already dominates many of our transactions. When we make purchases using cards, phones, or smartwatches, we simply transfer numerical values from one account to another. Even popular cryptocurrencies are just information in a computer network. Let's recapitulate it. Money is not the same as wealth. It serves three crucial purposes in an economy: facilitating exchange, converting goods into a common value, and storing value over time. Its role as a catalyst in the circulation of goods and services is vital. Over time, money has evolved from being tied to precious metals like gold or silver to existing as virtual digits on a screen. As long as there is trust in society, paper money or electronic transactions can function just as effectively. However, it's important for central banks to carefully balance the money supply to avoid hyperinflation or deflation. If too much money is printed, inflation skyrockets and devalues the nation's wealth. On the other hand, persistent deflation hinders economic growth and can lead to a stagnant economy. Thus, central banks strive for a well-oiled system where inflation is low enough to be unnoticeable, but still present enough to keep the economy moving forward smoothly. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing, and see you in the next video.